What happens when a joke goes too far? A late-night comedian's comment about Barron Trump, Melania Trump's son, didn't just spark outrage. It unleashed a storm that now has Melania in the middle of a heated legal battle. The fallout has gripped the public, raising tough questions about where we draw the line between humor and harm. The significance of this case extends beyond Melania and Barron. It's about respect, responsibility, and the fine line between humor and harm. In an age where comedians often target public figures, this moment forces us to think about the consequences of words and how they affect people's personal lives. As we break down this story, we'll look at reactions from fans, critics, and legal experts to see what this means for comedy, accountability, and the boundaries of satire. Stay with us as we explore how one joke turned into a cultural reckoning that could change how society views humor in the public eye. The joke came during a late-night segment meant to tease public figures, but it took an unexpected turn when the comedian aimed their punchline at Barron Trump, the youngest son of Melania and Donald Trump. The setup seemed light-hearted, focusing on Barron's height and what the host described as an awkwardness typical of teenagers. But when the punchline landed, the reaction was anything but unanimous. Laughter rippled through the live audience, but outside the studio, a firestorm was brewing. Viewers quickly took to social media, and the reactions were sharply divided. Some defended the joke as harmless, pointing out that public figures and their families are often the subjects of satire. But others were outraged, arguing that targeting a child, especially one who has stayed out of the political spotlight, was crossing a line that should never be crossed. The question loomed large. Should comedians have free rein to mock anyone, or should children be off limits? The backlash was swift and loud. Tweets, posts, and videos flooded the internet, with hashtags calling for both accountability and support for the host. Critics of the joke painted it as not just tasteless but damaging, pointing out how it could perpetuate a culture of bullying. They argued that humor at the expense of a child wasn't just cruel, it was irresponsible, especially given the emotional toll such jokes can take on someone too young to defend themselves. Meanwhile, supporters of the comedian doubled down, suggesting that public figures and their families are part of the territory when it comes to satire, no matter their age. This moment didn't just spark controversy, it became a cultural flashpoint. It raised uncomfortable questions about the ethics of comedy in the modern era. Are there boundaries comedians shouldn't cross? Or has the line between satire and sensitivity blurred so much that anything goes? As the debate rages on, this incident forces us to ask whether humor has a responsibility to protect the vulnerable, or if the very nature of comedy means nothing is truly off-limits. Melania Trump's reaction to a late-night host's joke about her son, Barron, was nothing short of a mother's fierce protectiveness. In a world where celebrities and public figures are often the target of biting humor, her reaction was deeply personal and charged with maternal instinct. Barron, still a minor, had largely been shielded from the media frenzy that surrounded the Trump family. So, when the joke about him aired, it struck a raw nerve, evoking a powerful need in Melania to defend her child from what she saw as cruel and unnecessary public ridicule. But this wasn't just about one hurtful joke. For Melania, it was about something bigger, the need to protect her son's dignity and mental well-being as he grows up under an unforgiving public spotlight. The decision to take legal action wasn't taken lightly. She believed the joke had crossed a line, setting a dangerous precedent for how the children of public figures are treated in the media. It wasn't just comedy. It was a form of emotional distress, something that could have lasting repercussions on Barron's development and self-esteem. As soon as Melania filed the lawsuit, the media was set ablaze with mixed reactions. Some hailed her as a fierce mother, standing up against bullying, applauding her for defending Barron against what they saw as a public attack. Others, however, questioned the move, accusing her of overreacting or stifling free speech. The story exploded across news outlets, with pundits debating whether the legal action was a bold stand or an excessive measure that could set a dangerous precedent. The lawsuit, which centered on defamation and emotional distress, went beyond the single joke. It argued that the host's words weren't just part of a comedy routine, they were a direct hit on a vulnerable child, one that could have serious long-term effects on his mental health. Melania's legal team made it clear. This wasn't just about one joke. It was about protecting a young person from the emotional scars of public mockery. But the fallout was just beginning. The media coverage was relentless, and public opinion was divided. Some saw Melania's action as a necessary step to protect the future of public figures' children from being made the punchline of jokes. Others saw it as a threat to comedy itself, raising questions about where to draw the line in the pursuit of humor. If this lawsuit succeeded, it could change the way comedians approach their material, especially when it comes to targeting children. What's at stake here isn't just one joke, it's the balance between free speech, comedy, and the protection of vulnerable individuals, particularly children, in the public eye. This case could set a dangerous precedent that alters the landscape of late-night humor for years to come. On the other hand, if Melania's lawsuit is defeated, it could ignite a fierce debate about the limits of humor and the responsibilities of those who wield it. One thing is certain. This legal battle will resonate far beyond the Trump family, sparking a wider conversation about the ethics of comedy and how far comedians should go in the name of laughter. The outcome will leave everyone wondering, where do we draw the line? The lawsuit filed by Melania Trump against a late-night host has ignited a firestorm of controversy, sparking national debates about humor, accountability, and the ethical responsibilities of comedians. What started as a dispute over a single joke has now evolved into a full-blown cultural reckoning. As the case unfolds, people are grappling with a central question. When it comes to public figures and their families, where should the line be drawn between comedy and cruelty? More specifically, how far can humor go when it involves children, and who decides what's fair game? Supporters of Melania argue that her lawsuit is a necessary defense of her son, Barron, and a stand against the kind of bullying that has too often been tolerated in the name of comedy. They believe that public figures' children should be off-limits, protected from ridicule that could have lasting emotional impacts. But critics are quick to challenge this view, accusing Melania of overstepping and threatening free speech. Should comedians be allowed to joke about anyone, regardless of age or status? This divide has fueled a fierce debate about the limits of humor and whether the pursuit of laughter can come at the cost of someone's dignity. Enter social media, a battleground where this debate is playing out in real time. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have become the arenas for impassioned arguments, memes, and viral commentary. The public's opinions are being shaped and amplified by the rapid spread of information, creating a volatile mix of support and dissent. Every new post, tweet, or article ignites fresh debates about the ethics of comedy, with users taking sides in an increasingly polarized discussion. Social media isn't just shaping public sentiment, it's becoming a central force in the national conversation about what's acceptable in comedy and the consequences of crossing personal lines. As the lawsuit moved into the courtroom, the stakes were higher than ever. The proceedings were tense, with both sides digging in their heels. Melania's legal team passionately argued that her son deserved protection from such mockery, while the defense tried to downplay the joke as nothing more than light-hearted humor. But it was in the testimonies that the case truly took an unexpected turn. One of the most shocking revelations came from William Carter, a former employee of the network that aired the late-night show. His testimony pulled back the curtain on the internal culture of the network, exposing a troubling indifference toward the real-world impact of the jokes made on their shows. Carter suggested that, behind the scenes, there was a pervasive attitude that trivialized the effect such jokes could have on public figures' families, especially children. This testimony rocked the courtroom and shifted the focus of the case from just the late-night host's joke to the broader question of accountability within the entertainment industry itself. With the case now shining a light on the network's corporate culture, the question looms: will this lawsuit redefine how comedians approach their material? Could it force a cultural shift in how we balance comedy with respect? Or will it embolden those who argue for a more uninhibited approach to humor, regardless of its targets? As the legal battle continues, the outcome remains uncertain, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The clash between humor, accountability, and respect has never been so intense, and we're all watching to see who will come out on top. As the trial unfolded, a shift began to take place, one that would change the course of the entire case. The focus no longer rested solely on the comedian, but on the powerful network that had given the joke a platform. This unexpected turn resonated deeply with the jury and the public, highlighting a crucial point. The responsibility for the joke extended far beyond the comedian's stage. It now implicated the network in a much larger conversation about the ethics of comedy and the treatment of public figures, especially their families. In the courtroom, what started as a personal battle to protect one child evolved into a microcosm of the broader cultural debate about how humor, accountability, and corporate responsibility intersect in today's media-driven world. The trial was no longer just about a joke. It had become a landmark case with far-reaching implications. This shift marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing discourse about the boundaries of comedy. Could comedy really justify crossing personal lines, especially when children were involved? The stakes had escalated. The outcome of this trial wouldn't just impact Melania and Barron Trump. It would set a precedent for how similar cases would be handled in the future. The question loomed: was this the moment that reshaped how we, as a society, viewed humor's impact on individuals? When the jury's verdict finally arrived, it sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. After days of deliberation, the jury ruled in favor of Melania, finding that the late-night host's joke about Barron Trump was not just a lapse in judgment, it was defamation and emotional distress. The decision was nothing short of groundbreaking. It sent an unmistakable message about the boundaries of comedy and the treatment of public figures' families, particularly when it involved children. It suggested that comedians and networks alike could face legal consequences for humor that crossed personal lines. The verdict hinted at a seismic shift in the world of late-night comedy, a shift that could fundamentally alter the way comedians approach their material. For Melania, the verdict was both a personal triumph and a hard-won victory for the principles she held dear. Relief and vindication washed over her as she expressed gratitude for the jury's decision, not just for herself and her family, but for the larger message it conveyed: that children, particularly those in the public eye, deserve protection from ridicule. Her victory was a reaffirmation of her role as a protective mother, standing up against bullying, even when it came in the form of comedy. For those who supported her stance, the decision was a beacon of hope, reinforcing the belief that there should be limits to humor when it comes to vulnerable individuals. However, the fallout for the late-night host and the network was swift and unforgiving. The host faced intense backlash, with public opinion turning sharply against them. Critics questioned the appropriateness of their comedic style and whether it had gone too far. The network, too, found itself in a precarious position. Scrutiny intensified, and the pressure mounted. In response, the network announced a review of its content policies, a move that signaled a shift toward greater sensitivity in its programming. This wasn't just about one comedian or one network. It was a seismic moment for the entire entertainment industry. The case sparked broader discussions about the ethical responsibilities of comedians and whether humor should have a limit when it comes to real-world consequences. The verdict underscored the delicate balancing act between free speech and accountability, forcing the industry to reckon with the impact of comedy on the lives of public figures and their families. The cultural conversation had been irrevocably changed, and its echoes would be felt for years to come. Melania Trump's legal battle against the late-night host has left an indelible mark on our cultural landscape, offering profound lessons that resonate across the entertainment industry and beyond. One of the most powerful takeaways from this case is the urgent need for accountability in public discourse and humor. The jury's verdict sent a clear message. While comedy often pushes boundaries, it's critical to recognize the potential harm that can arise when humor crosses personal lines, especially when it targets vulnerable individuals like children. This case has ignited a broader conversation about the ethical responsibilities of comedians and the media, compelling us to think deeply about the impact of our words and actions in the public arena. As we reflect on this landmark legal battle, it's important to pause and consider how our own words can affect others. In today's world, where social media amplifies every voice, the responsibility to communicate thoughtfully and respectfully has never been more essential. This case serves as a reminder that, while humor can unite and entertain, it should never come at the expense of someone else's dignity or well-being. It calls on us to build a culture of empathy and understanding where we hold ourselves accountable for the messages we share, especially when they reach millions of people. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the boundaries of comedy? How should public figures and comedians balance humor with respect for others? Your thoughts matter, and we'd love to hear your insights in the comments below. If this discussion has sparked something in you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. Let's keep this important conversation alive and continue exploring the complexities of humor, accountability, and the responsibilities we all have in shaping the media landscape. Together, we can foster a more respectful and thoughtful approach to comedy and public discourse. Join the conversation and let's make a difference.